Right. Yeah, and then
Is 8th grade going to
8th grade.
Crap.
He needs it because otherwise, so the educational advocate is saying, well, judging on the gap, he should be at OCs, and I'm like, no, I really don't.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
So.
Because you don't want them to be out of that.
Right. I mean, I've got to think about social emotional welfare too.
Mm-hmm.
So and then of course Mr. Lone is like, I really don't see that as the right environment.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I understand. So anyway, the push is going to be 4:15 to 1 for ELA and math.
Okay.
But as of now, you can see I'm not able to continue with the level of reteaching that I have been doing up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, now we're getting into the new material.
Right.
I was able to reteach while it was still review.
Right.
But now that we're getting into the new material, you can see
Mm-hmm.
things are just kind of, the bottom's falling out a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm okay because that shows the need.
Right. Right. So that was absolutely, that is a requirement.
Yeah.
And what they will ask is, how does he know to ask for these things?
Sure, he does.
Right.
And Mr. Lone's telling me that Zave's actually advocating for
good,
himself
good.
a lot more than he did last year.
Good.
Which is another
Voice
excellent 7th grade
Yeah,
cancel.
no, that's a
skill.
great skill to
That
have.
Zave is starting to ask for help when he needs
Yeah.
it.
That's good. But I don't see, and I'm not saying, but was this the CTU test or is this the test?
Well, see, that's the thing. So I guess Mr. Lone feels like right now his input is not valued.
Okay.
So it's not the same kind of working relationship that you had with
Okay.
Mrs. Ward.
Okay.
It's a different type of dynamic.
Okay.
So it seems that Mr. Lone's dynamic is that he's in the corner putting out fires. That's his perception.
Okay. Funny to have involved.
But I mean, to be
136
honest with
FPS.
you,
It's hard.
it really
And
is.
I wonder how many kids are on that list.
Dang
That
it.
like- and we see this all the time. Like, why are we not ahead of the
Oh, I need a hoe. I need the hoe.
Goes down the hallway to 15 minutes.
Thank you, villager. Valuable trick.
Yeah, but that seems to be
Thanks,
a very
buddy.
common,
I mean, is that specific to this one particular?
I can't imagine that would
I
be
don't
the
think so.
situation.
To be honest with you, I mean, remember 2 months ago, I was a little frustrated, and I remember asking you about the possibility of
chicken?
switching and that kind of thing. But to be
Yeah.
honest with you, I think sometimes all it takes is just for you to feel like one other person cares as much as you do,
Yes.
pull you out of your
Yes,
funk.
absolutely.
And I think I've noticed that spark a
the
little
last-
bit. And
so the modification was go through the last page?
yes,
Okay. Because I was wondering at first, I was like,
yes, that was the mod. But remember, right now on Zave's IEP, there are no modifications to the curriculum. It's simply all accommodations. So if you're looking at the
Yeah.
continuum of special ed, there are no modifications to the curriculum at this point. It's
No,
just
and-
accommodations.
and there usually are not.
Right, but I think we're beyond that right now. I think we need
Yeah.
the accommodations are not ensuring access to the
Yeah.
curriculum, so I think we need to start looking at
That's
modifications.
a good way to put it. Yeah, that's exactly what you need to say. And it seems like
Mhm.
a priority of curriculum needs to be in place. If the option is, you should be in that.
I mean,
Then that would not be my first move.
I mean, you're talking about skipping over a whole option that goes
Right,
from
that's what I mean. Like,
least
there's a-
restrictive to most restrictive.
Exactly.
And
So
I'm
there-
like, I did
so I
actually
wonder, is
sit
it-
down with the advocate.
Yeah.
I'm like, look,
So
I don't
cool.
want to go straight from the least
No.
restrictive to the most restrictive. We've
No.
got the case manager
Yep.
who's mentioning this option. He goes, oh, okay, so that has been a discussion. And I'm like, yes.
Okay.
And I'm like, that's
Okay.
what I would be most comfortable with. And he said, and I think that would be the best fit. So I
Okay.
think at least we're all on the same page as far as that goes. Now,
Okay.
whether or not administration's going to be happy to hear that, I doubt it. But
Oh, I doubt it too, but
I don't care.
at some point, that's how the things get done.
Because the other alternative is to take the OPWDD funding that follows
OP.
and take it out of the district.
Yeah. Yeah. So Well, then this just goes back to this part.
This is student perception, but
right, and that's
but to be honest, I have to say 80% of me believes it. Really, because he's not a drama king. He's really not.
Hmm?
Yeah. He's saying, no, she reads it to us out loud once and then she moves right on. She doesn't repeat it. She doesn't clarify it. There's lots of words I don't know, all of these things. And I'm like, so you don't get a chance to read it yourself?
Are there a lot of kids?
There's 5 or 6 kids and she
fine.
moves on and he's not ready. He's still working on a problem and then he has to abandon the problem
Right.
and move to the next one when
Right.
he hasn't finished. So he's
Yep.
not getting enough processing time.
Right,
Yeah.
which we know is one of the
Yep.
most important scores on this sheet.
Yeah. So
Okay.
one of the things Mr. Lone was saying was like even just concepts of like tax means you're adding more to the total.
Yeah.
That was a tricky idea.
Well, I know that now.
Yeah, I know you do, because you really started hard. You really worked
Right.
hard on
Well,
this
and,
unit.
and you were doing okay with that when I was here, which was a long time ago.
Mhm. But you know when you get
When things are
flustered
coupons
or
and
you
they
get
get-
frustrated
Yes.
and then you feel like you don't know one thing and then you feel like how if I don't know
Right.
this how am I going to know any of it? It just kind of all falls apart and I get that.
Yeah.
And
No,
that's where my strategy of having a pencil and paper test is like if you don't know this problem and you don't know that problem and then you don't know the third one and you start feeling panicky, just flip to another section and start
Yeah.
working on that.
Yeah.
And you can't do that on the Google Forms.
No, you cannot.
And that's why I'm like, why
Well,
can't he have it printed out?
Right, because like New York State allows you to go forward and back. I
A
don't
lot of
know
times the
what-
Google Forms don't allow it. At least that was my experience in 6th grade.
Right.
Plus, if he's
I
he's
agree.
impulsive, he thinks, and a lot of times he'll want to hit the key,
Mm-hmm.
and then he'll read it over again as he's hitting the key, and he'll be like, "No, wait, I didn't mean to hit that," and then it's the
Is
wrong
that
answer.
an accommodation that can be made that is?
I actually
And I
mentioned
don't
that.
know.
I actually mentioned that, and he's like, "They usually don't have a problem if it doesn't cost money."
It's funny.
And
Like
I'm
we
like,
used
well,
to
then
print the
he
Google
needs,
form.
he absolutely needs more time, and
Right.
he needs to have the option of having any Google form for a test or quiz printed out on pencil paper because it slows him down and
Yeah.
it forces him
Well,
to
those are
process.
easy to do.
Yeah,
Like that's an easy button to
I
push.
was really trying
There
to
are
like,
certain things that might be a little more complex.
yeah.
You know, like the state test is only on the computer,
No, I got that.
right? Unless
And
I'm
I'm
sure
not
there are
saying
somewhere.
I'm
some
not saying that
accommodation-
he doesn't know how to take tests on a form.
Well, he's really good at computers.
Exactly.
It's just
So this was what
Yeah.
actually
occasionally to learn.
This was
and show
what,
his
yeah,
best.
that's what
Yeah.
that's what the advocate wanted, the 1211, and I'm like, you know, and I mentioned that, and Mr. Lund's like, you know, that's really not the right environment.
Okay.
He's like, and he goes, you know, and he explained it to me, and he goes, really, the 15-1 is just a perfect fit.
Okay.
So,
And that is happening in 7th grade.
yes, he,
So
well, so Mr. Loon's words were, it's happening for ELA in 8th grade, but when I asked administration if I could tell Zaid's mom, they said no.
okay.
Because they're not ready for me to tell Zaid's mom yet.
Okay. Right. So I haven't heard anything about that because I only know where mine are going to be placed, not the rest.
I know.
Or where I think that I have.
But we pushed
Okay.
it, we pushed
Yeah.
the IP meeting out
Good.
until the end of May, so.
Okay.
But, you know, I mean, if you look at,
Yeah.
you know, that's 7th grade, which was.
I have a lot of salmon.
Yeah.
Let me see here. I think she said 3.8.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then 6th grade was 4.1. Yes.
Hmm.
So
That's
6th grade was 4.1.
A whole
7th
year
grade was
different.
3.8.
okay.
Yeah, a whole year difference going.
Right.
So
even
I have.
those kids, the only reason why we see stagnant numbers, not even decreasing, is because they're already maxed out.
Yeah, no.
Right? Like I can see like a kid in my class having like an 8.2,
Despite
and
the
then going
fact
to an
that,
8.1.
despite the fact this is really just one
Exactly. Well,
snapshot
that's
in
just one
time,
Yes. And those
Still,
are not.
this is not what anyone wants to see.
No, I would definitely be investigating why is this decreasing if those were my kids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I know why. Because he's got one teacher for ELA,
Right.
one teacher for ELA
Yeah.
lab, one
Yeah.
teacher for math, one teacher for math lab,
Yeah.
and, you know,
Yeah.
nobody knows
So if ever there's a
what
moment,
ingredient
this
has
needs